Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the South Tipp Arts Podcast. You may notice that these episodes are becoming less and less frequent, and it's purely a case of resources and hours in the day that there aren't more episodes. So thank you if you've been listening from the beginning and you're continuing to listen to each episode. My heartiest thanks to you. This project began life as a Creative Ireland project a couple of years ago, and since then I've hugely enjoyed chatting to everyone that's been involved over the last couple of years. I am committed to producing an episode to go along with each exhibition that we have here at South Tipp Arts Centre. So for the time being, the podcast lives. In this episode, we will focus on She'll Give You All She Has, currently on display here at the Art Centre by Orla Barry, Laura Fitzgerald and Chloe McKeown. She'll Give You All She Has opened on the 29th of October, and it focuses on the female relationship with agriculture, the family farm and the division of labour, which has become more visible in recent years, both in the growing visibility of women farmers and as an area of research for women artists. Each of the artists are connected with the rural, here variously understood as issues relating to farming, the countryside and animal husbandry. Each one connects to the landscape in different ways. Barry has the experience of both being an artist and a shepherd. Laura Fitzgerald was brought up by a farmer, and Chloe McKeown lives in relatively rural County Meath. Yet the research and focus of each is very different, extending from the anxieties and challenges of balancing careers as a shepherd artist, in Orla Barry's case, an occasionally fraught relationship with the countryside, in Laura Fitzgerald's case, and often the callous nature of breeding cattle, in the work of Chloe McKeown. In She'll Give You All She Has, the artists tackle these concerns through a mixture of objects, sound, print, writing and video. The works are woven through with absurdity, tragedy, humour and the kind of emotional detachment familiar to readers of contemporary farming manuals. Orla Barry is both a visual artist and a shepherd. She's lived in Brussels for 16 years and now lives and works on the south coast of rural Wexford, where she runs a successful pedigree flock alongside her art practice. Barry writes, makes performances and video and sound installations. Her work focuses on language, both written and spoken, as well as its visual deconstruction and displacement. Barry plays with the fractured relationship between agriculture, gender and the natural world, but her work also deals with the materiality of words and approaches to writing and speaking to accentuate this physical and embodied understanding of language as form. Barry's work advocates for support for small farmers and people who care about the rural environment, those who live and work there like herself. Barry's writing and her oversized representation of a hand-knit Aran jumper could be read as a kind of eulogy for an uncompromised rural existence in which nature and farming can exist side by side. Instead, she experiences, along with her confreres, the turbulent fortunes of farmers, particularly in this case sheep farmers, the falling price of wool, the weather and the everyday labour of caring for sheep and the physical and mental toll this can take. A Letter to My Stock Ram is a deeply personal text by Orla Barry, whose intimate relationship with her flock of sheep and her recent decision to take a break from them and from farming provides the narrative. Orla could not make it along to the podcast, but she has kindly sent on a recording of her reading that letter to Jigga, her stock ram, and it's a very moving piece, so I hope you enjoy it.
A Letter to My Stock Ram. Dearest Jigga, my sheep-borne injuries are not healing fast. I have a significant joint effusion, tricompartmental degenerative changes with a horizontal tear of the posterior horn of the lateral meniscus and a radial complex tear of the posterior horn of the medial meniscus. That's what I did, Jigga, while trying to turn you up to tend to your feet. And now I have a 3.5-legged lamb as my symbolic damaged limb. She is your offspring. How are you lot up in the field behind the sand dunes? How's 5-star and how are the ewes? Are 507 and 563 still with you, or have they been sold on? Money moves around fields in woolly coats in Wicklow, doesn't it? I'm saving images from the fire. I miss you so much. The fields here are empty. Some years back, Lucinda Lamb of the Galway Sheep and Prize Chickens and Pugs told me that she knew John Seymour when he lived in Wexford. He's the guy who wrote the infamous Complete Book of Self-Sufficiency. Edie said to me back then with an air of disdain that you couldn't have time to write a book and do the work. That was her advice to me. I'm thinking about that again now. Whether it was true or not, it's on my mind. Jigga, you were the last into the livestock trailer, looking at me with why eyes. I turned my back on the buyer and cried. I watched your genetics and my years of work trundling down the lane to another farm. Since then, it's been the long goodbye. You are my spirit lover. Maybe it's not over. I could buy you back. I think about it all the time. I had crow liver for breakfast. I've got little Bo Peep syndrome. 11 years of persistence and hyper-resistance, inside and out. Art seminars, sheep discussion groups, arts council interviews, board BIA audits, on-farm inspections, tax collections, livestock recordings, field recordings, girlfriends, boyfriends, furry friends, nature swat, aesthete, social hermit, shepherd of many sheep. I don't feel part of this world since you left. Am I back to being a fucking tourist on my own farm? I stepped outside the system to work with you, yet I am just a player in multiple systems, in a layered resistance of categories, sleeping with my ancestors, feeling through their fingers, seeing what they saw, a continuous handing down of genetics through centuries of hedge schools. All edges seem soft in your presence. Soft sheep drinking sounds, you suckling lamb. I chose you as my companion, standing stubborn, a block of woolly cement. Shepherds in slave chains and slave shackles. Find me a cloud, then give me a shroud. Words are vectors for big emotions. I can't say the word sheep right now without tears. Now that you've gone, the collies want to round up the kitchen table and bite its legs off, and the leftover lambs are having underage sheep discos under the lights in front of our house. Jigga, you are a perfect klexograph, ink blot mammals leaking into my daily existence. We shared ovine whispers and soul staring through your eyes that see all sides. Mafia shepherds are creeping out of the woodwork. You see that one there? He has a bling crook, but we don't want him in our story. I am reordering life and contemplating change. I'm thinking about setting up a lipstick brand for shepherds. Lambing Shed Pink, Show Coral, Sellers Red, Woolly Ruby, Lamb's Rosewood, Honeysuckle Rouge, Lamb's Red Mystery, Ruby You, Bo Peep's Kiss, Mary's Crush, Sentient Scarlet, Rock and Roll Shearling. What do you think? I am spinning plates. 2022 was my 10th year breeding sheep. Dearest Jigga, in so many ways I have been trapped geographically and tied to the sheep calendar. That's 10 years, 10 cycles of breeding, scanning, lambing, recording, shearing, weighing, showing, herding, selling, scanning and lambing again. It's October now. Breeding season is upon us once more. This morning I saw a field of sheep, their rumps raddled with red wax. I feel like shouting solidarity amongst shepherds, but it seems like pastiche Bo Peep and Marxist sacks of spuds, two volatile elements in a crucible. It's the crack in the lie that I've swallowed, isn't it? O ovine goddess of the universe, this is a dark choreographic synthesis. We inherit a shamrock of guilt, the prodigal shepherd, the hermaphrodite lamb, the head to back stun kill. I am creating tear block and trying to unremember you. With love from Seafield, dearest Jigga. P.S. Maybe when I'm better, I can come back and buy you back.
As a counterpoint to Orla Barry's deeply emotional work, emerging artist Chloe McKeown presents new work, continuing her fascination with refined methods of breeding cattle, from the fetishization of the number one breeding bull in the country to the faintly ridiculous mechanics of artificial insemination training. Her life-size piece, Henrietta the Cow, is an image of an artificial insemination training aid in the form of the rear end of a cow, here fitted with a small video screen. The video explores the intimate manipulation of cow bodies in the pursuit of pursuing genetically superior offspring and ultimately bigger profits. I managed to catch up with Chloe for a chat about this work and what she's discovered in her research. My apologies in advance for the slightly crackly audio. It was a wild and windy one the day that we spoke, so just to make you aware of that in case you're listening in headphones. You're the baby of the group, shall we say, and you graduated in 2020, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. And you're in Dunleary, and I'm just wondering, like, you've gone quite deep down a rabbit hole into the world of kind of industrial, I suppose, industrialization of farming, or the kind of continued mechanical sort of nature of the way cows are bred, particularly. So my first question is, how on earth did you find yourself coming to this as a subject matter?
Well, so I think it was kind of in college I would have like done kind of work on like the more kind of visible industries, like the dairy industry and that kind of thing. And then I suppose, of course, in my research on that, I came across like cattle breeding as well, but I never really kind of had the time to like delve into it as an actual kind of subject matter.
Did that come out of kind of an earlier interest in kind of animal welfare in general, or, you know, as a child, you know, were you always the kind of one taken in the street? It has that kind of feeling to it, like you clearly really feel for these poor creatures, and it really does expose the cruelty of it, and it's quite visceral, your work. How do you plow through that stuff when you are doing your research?
Most of my research, so it's pretty much all done online. So
yeah.
I use stuff like YouTube. I'll watch a lot of the like farming videos off like, you know, all the Farmers Journal and everything and all those kind of things. So that's how I do my research. And what was the question again? Sorry.
Just thinking, like, how do you plow through all that stuff? Because it's cruel, you know, and I mean, you find yourself getting upset by that as you go along.
Yeah.
It must be difficult to watch a lot of that stuff.
It does be. I do have to take like breaks and stuff. I think even like after college, I kind of went through a stage as well where I kind of stopped making art for a little bit, because it's a lot and it does kind of like get you down. But then it's like, I think it's important as well to like have the conversations and bring stuff to people's attention as well.
You've definitely brought it to mind. Like I'm kind of aware that, you know, you're kind of aware peripherally that probably a lot of this stuff is going on, but like you're really up close and personal with the kind of techniques and things that they're using in this work.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, important. I suppose it's important to kind of arrest people with that type of imagery and stuff. So do you come from farming stock, like family, or is it just, and if so, how would your kind of family, like is your dad a farmer, or how does he feel about the work and what it's saying about the industry?
So I wouldn't actually come from like a farming background, like none of my family would be farmers. Basically, my situation is I'm kind of living in the countryside. So I'm about 15 minutes outside of Navan.
Yeah.
And just the area is very, I don't know how you'd say, maybe like populated with like farmers. And
so you're surrounded by farms and you're kind of more of an observer of
that's exactly it. Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting in terms of like that man that I spoke to you about earlier that had sort of wandered in, that was clearly a farmer, that he didn't seem to sort of be emotionally affected by kind of what he looked at on the screen, which I thought was another interesting thing, because obviously it's just the reality for the work that these people are doing, that they don't question it. Or how do you feel about the people that work in that industry? What is it that you're trying to say to them? You know, what is it that you're trying to make them change?
I think so. I would have like nothing against like farmers or anything like that. And I get that as well. Of course, they like love their animals and like they're spending every day with them. Like they really do. They form a relationship relationship with them. But I think the thing I suppose my work would try to be saying is like, could we take a step back and like just have a look and see like that they're living creatures that we're kind of subjecting everything to, and just like, of course, at the end of the day, like the cows, like all of the other animals as well, are bred, and then of course they're going to be like slaughtered at the end of the day. Like well before their kind of natural lifespan.
I suppose it's the way everything is being forced now. You know, every industry, everything needs to be faster, everything needs to be bigger, everything needs to be produce more all the time.
That's it, yeah.
How did you come across Henrietta, who's the cow model, shall we say? She features on the poster for She'll Give You All She Has.
Yeah, so basically I came across the simulator. It was when I was kind of just doing research into cattle breeding and stuff, and how like they were trained. So a lot of the times like the artificial inseminators would be trained using like the preserved reproductive tracts of like slaughtered animals.
That sounds pretty... Did you say preserved reproductive tracts of slaughtered cows?
Yeah, so they're actually like on the kind of websites for AI and everything. You can actually kind of like, you can buy some of them.
Oh, no way.
It's mad, yeah.
So grotesque.
But Henrietta actually, so the guys who designed it, MW Design, and they're from New Zealand. But basically, I think they were trying to, a lot of the time as well, the training will be done. So it would start maybe with the preserved reproductive tracts, but then it will be done on live animals after that. So with Henrietta, what they were trying to do, I think, was to limit the need for it to be done in the live cattle before someone was properly trained.
Yeah.
So there's actually only like one Henrietta here in Ireland, like the actual model. It's in Gen XL. It's like they do AI training. But that was kind of, I just kind of stumbled upon it when I was like researching into how like these people are kind of trained to perform.
It's really effective. Like, it's really effective as a device. Actually imagining that, I don't know why anybody would be, but it's not for me to judge, but I don't know anybody would be drawn to that job. But there you go.
I think a lot of vets actually do it as well.
And good luck to them.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be me. So do you think this work is something that there's more in it for you? Is it going to expand into sort of further work? Has it made you discover other maybe similar areas, or, you know, other aspects of the AI thing that, you know, need to be further explored by you?
Yeah, I mean, the research that I've done, I'm sure I can make a lot more work with, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I think there is further kind of work to be made from it. I think I'll continue with it for a little bit anyway.
Yeah. Is it fair to say that video is your primary sort of focus for your work?
Yeah, most of my work now would be done through video. Like there's an odd piece here or there that would be maybe like there's like print or like that, but it's primarily been video, really.
Yeah. Well, it's really easy for that to take traction and to spread, actually, isn't it? Really, when you think about it, it's that sort of sense of being fast to share and quick to get your message out, maybe, because there's more than one avenue for it to be delivered on. If people would like to find out more about your work, in particular, Chloe, where can they go to find you?
So I have my website, so that's just chloemckeown.com. And then my Instagram, I'm not as active as I should be on it, but my Instagram is Chloe_McKeown_.
Brilliant. So best of luck, Chloe, to you going forward. The work is really, really good. We're having fantastic feedback here from people coming in and out. People, you know, as I've said to yourself, and I mentioned to Laura as well, that, you know, it's bringing people in from the street that may not otherwise walk into this building, which is absolutely brilliant and we love. Best of luck with the work, and thanks so much for having a chat.
Thank you so much.
And finally, Laura Fitzgerald is a visual artist working in drawing, painting, installation, video and text. A graduate of both the National College of Art and Design in Dublin and the Royal College of Art London, she is a recipient of the Visual Arts Bursary Award from the Arts Council of Ireland from 21-22. Laura's work in She'll Give You All She Has centres around a full-scale David Brown tractor which she's drawn in steel and which contains her video work A Mountain for Venice, which is a proposition to submit a small Kerry mountain as a potential artwork to represent Ireland in the prestigious Venice Biennale. In the film's voiceover, Fitzgerald mulls over the logistics of shifting an entire geographic feature to Italy and the impact that this might have on her career as an artist. I managed to catch up with Laura for a chat where I began by asking her about her sense of humour and how important that is as an artist. I was having a look at your website, and the first thing, I love the emoji thing. That gave me a really good laugh over my cup of coffee, I have to say. And I think it was such a good introduction to, having not been overly familiar with your work before, it kind of gave me a sense of the type of person that you are. So your sense of humour is, I just think you have this sort of tongue-in-cheek way of getting to the kind of nub of the point. That's a serious point that you're making, but you're doing it in such a lovely kind of roundabout way that you're really bringing the viewer along with you, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah. No, that makes loads of sense. Yeah, I think like over the years coming through, like, I suppose like an art education, I found that the art world to be like a very serious place, to the point that it was actually starting to crush me. And I think kind of then finding other artists and writers who use humor as like a tool, and like a coping strategy. I think I found that the only way I was going to stay in the art game, because parts of the art world, you know, is a kind of game, that I needed to use humor as material. And so that, you know, I found that if I could kind of incorporate it into the work and make that part of the language of the work, that not only would I keep myself sane, but I might also keep others potentially sane in the process, or at least draw them into the work where I just couldn't do it the other way, you know, the really serious way.
Yeah, and I think possibly why I related to it all so much when I was reading your words was that, like, I've been through that system as well, and I did let it break me. So, you know, like, I did give up, and I just was like, I can't actually do this. So to see somebody take that and turn it into like really good work is really heartening, actually. And I think for anybody who's kind of struggling through the process of, you know, putting in grant applications and maybe not always, you know, having success or whatever, that it's quite inspirational.
That's great.
And, you know, encouraging to people.
Yeah. And I guess as well for me, like, it was also this idea around, you know, kind of like sustainability within a practice, like, as in, you know, if I felt that I could somehow use the work that had gone into an application and turn it into something else, like that it become a reflection on, say, like the process of grant applications, that, you know, wouldn't seem like an awful waste. I think the waste maybe was getting to me at points prior in the, you know, in trying to be a part of the serious discourse around art, so that, like, around, I suppose, the point of things, so that, I mean, a lot of writers do it, like Lydia Davis, or people who use like the extra, what is it, the extraordinary, you know, the idea that you turn, that's not her term, like, but there's another famous writer who coined that, but, you know, to use that everyday thing as a way to bring in some lightness or kind of you know, not a reverence around the everyday, but
but it kind of helps you be present in it as well, and just sort of, you know, accept maybe
I think so,
things the way they are.
Definitely.
And the other thing that I really like about your work is the way that you mix not materials, but there's a real maker kind of quality to what you do. Like, there's a hands-on sculptural making part of it, and then there's sort of the video side of it, that the way that you marry the video and the audio with that sort of physical objects. I really like.
And I think, like, I think I love making things, but also I think, you know, some of those metal, the steel drawings, like the tractor, did come from, you know, that idea of kind of, I suppose, making the work present in the world, and also, I think sort of connected to like rural identity around, like, you know, what are you up to? Like, what are you doing? and like not always being able to portray that through like, you know, like a digital screen or like just making a video, you know, it nearly like it felt like I had to kind of make a large scale, you know, to scale drawing of a tractor in steel because you know, the neighbors would understand it. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense, but you know, that,
no, I
like,
know exactly what you mean.
That it allows other people in, and it kind of, you know, sometimes it's just like staking a claim as well. And I think, you know, that's this, I suppose, the struggle with like a lot of artists, and like, you know, I've been part of that struggle for a long time of like, where can you get a place to show your work, or like how can you make yourself visible in a gallery or in the studio? And like, so those drawings kind of the steel work kind of pulling out elements of the video and the audio into the room seemed to stake a better claim for myself, I thought. You know.
Do you know, I think that's borne out in what I was saying to you about people seeing the tractor through the window and just being completely drawn in. People who, you know, would more have maybe a kind of an agricultural type background than an art background, or and children, like everybody, like it's kind of a wide span of people who are kind of going, oh my goodness, what's this? And actually coming in the door, which is something that we struggle with all the time, to try and encourage people in to have a look.
And I mean, it's so interesting. I think I've been thinking about this a bit lately, you know, because like so many farmers, you know, that their landscape really is an exhibition. You know, it's constantly on display. It's constantly being looked at by other neighbors, other farmers, other people passing by land. So like, I think, you know, kind of what you do with it and like how you sculpt it and how you use it in the world is something that like is thought about, maybe not in the sense of that they're artists or anything like that, but I think it's, I know like even my dad is very guilty about one field in the farm that's like covered in furze bushes, and it's really beautiful in the spring because it's just like a pure yellow field of furze. And he feels, you know, that, oh, I've neglected that and people are judging me for being a bad farmer, you know, in inverted commas. But actually, you know, it is sort of an artwork in a way.
Quite the opposite, The other thing that I wanted to just touch on briefly with you is, and it kind of struck me, was that I know you spent a lot of time between Dublin, you were in Dublin, you were in the fire station for a few years, and then you were in London as well, you spent time in London, but that you've moved back to Inch and Kerry, to your home. And I wonder what that has done in terms of changing your perception, maybe the perception you had of that place before you left. And are you seeing it with fresh eyes or?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I am, I think. I think it's rooted me in a way. Not maybe, you know, totally as a full experience yet, but I think it's definitely grounded my work in that area in a very physical sense, like as in I have, you know, access to a large shed at Dad's old milking parlour, and I make a lot of the work there now. So like physically it's meant that I can really make work to scale now. Like it started in the fire station because of the workshop facilities there, but then, you know, you have a 3-year lease there, and then you need to exit then to give, you know, other artists a chance to come in. So in a real like just nuts and bolts way, it means that I can actually make work that's larger scale, because otherwise in places like London and things, when I was there, I had a studio there the size of like a bathroom, you know, like a very small bathroom. So, you know, making work of scale was just impossible. So in that sense, it has changed the practice, but I think it's such a literary experience. I think living in the countryside, and I mean, there's a whole canon of writers who've reflect this, like Flann O'Brien and different people, but like living in rural Ireland is like living in the theatre. Do you know, like I feel like I've gone to plays in London that like, you know, been to see like Not I and different plays by Beckett. It's so similar. Like you're in a small closed stage set. Now living that reality can have its challenges. Like not everyone wants to live in a theatre, you know. And so I think regular trips away from that site can be quite healthy. And I think I've learned maybe from neighbours who over the years have developed quite a healthy relationship to living in somewhere like Inch, because it is quite a small community. Now we're a very open community. I like to think that there's like, you know, a lot of different nationalities living there, but anywhere I think in the West Coast is particularly, you're dealing with like very heavy weather fronts, and like that in itself can be quite intense. So learning healthy, I suppose, like habits from neighbours who would make regular trips away to cities or would spend time, you know, take a trip out, I think is very healthy for the head, and for not getting, I suppose, I think what I have witnessed is maybe is, and again, this is like very common, I think, in urban and rural environments, that certain issues can become very amplified, you know, like disputes over land or and normally, to be honest, most of the problems I witnessed in Inch in particular are to do with land, and that's probably a post-colonial thing, and it's to do with like, you know, the very common problem is that we have have two maps often, like one person will have a map by the Land Commission, one person will have a map by the Land Registry, you know, from the time of land reformation, and they don't match up. And some of these rows are going on for like, they could be going on for like 2-3 generations. So now I'm not saying a trip to Dublin will like solve that, but it helps. So I think, I think over time, hopefully I'll learn to live there in a long-term arrangement. I think as time goes on, I do feel the need to do something, maybe do something is the wrong phrase, but to learn how to live there respectfully amongst the community, but also to maybe approach ideas of what we might do with the bits of land that we have. Like, we don't have a huge amount of land, but we have some fields, and they feel very special, I suppose, in amongst the kind of current discussions around like climate change and how we can like live sustainably and how we can grow things. I mean, definitely, I think it's on my mind that like we don't produce anything where we currently live apart from artworks, and you can't eat artworks. So, you know, so things like that, I think I'm certainly learning and thinking about. And even the show, they're having conversations with like Orla and Chloe and you know, Helena and yourself now and Anne, you know, kind of, it's definitely something I feel like I'm approaching or beginning to think about going forwards, like what the next kind of, what's the 5-year plan from here kind of thing around land use. And one of the drawings in the show, like, as it's done by my father Michal, and like he has the field names inscribed in the drawing. And
I love that so much. And it's the kind of the personal nature of it, and the sort of the community, the kind of the parish, that kind of feel to it, if you know what I mean. And it's like even the kind of local colloquial type names for the different plots or whatever, like it's really lovely.
And so just thinking about like how we might move forward with that, and I feel like I probably would do that through a kind of an art approach, you know. So that's kind of the thinking around what could living rurally do kind of in the future sense, but you know, but still obviously having fantasies about escaping quite regularly. I think that's normal though.
Yeah, well, especially at this time of year, I think.
True, yeah.
But listen, Laura, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. I wish you all the very best going forward, and I really look forward to seeing what you get up to in the future. And
thank you so much.
Lovely to have you here at South Tipp Arts Centre, so thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And that's it for this episode of the South Tipp Arts Podcast. A big thank you, as always, for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, the email address is southtippartspodcast@gmail.com. That's southtippartspodcast@gmail.com. And we're always delighted to hear your feedback or suggestions. You can find out more about She'll Give You All She Has by visiting our website at www.southtippartcentre.ie, where you can have a look at what's coming up in the next couple of weeks and months here at South Tipp Arts Centre. Our Christmas programme of workshops is now live and open for bookings, so pop along and see if there's anything that you would like to get involved in. She'll Give You All She Has runs until Saturday, December the 3rd, and you can register for a free artist talk with Laura Fitzgerald next Saturday, the 26th of October at 2 p.m. here at South Tipp Arts Centre. The bookings are via Eventbrite. You will find a link on our Facebook page, or indeed on any of our social medias, or you can go through the website. We would love to see you there. Until next time, thanks for listening.